Hi everyone, my name is Lachlan and welcome to the first video in the new team's Onshape introduction series. In this video, I'm just going to talk about the best way to start learning everything you need to know to start competently using Onshape, as well as some tips to get stuck into modeling. In the later videos, I'll discuss some really important things about specific Onshape tools and some hopefully helpful advice for best modeling practices. I'll kick us off by stating that, generally speaking, uni students are not good at CAD. Most of us think we know enough to just jump headfirst into any assembly that we want, but the truth is that there are lots of bad practices that seem harmless but can actually cause a lot of headaches. I certainly don't know everything there is to know about Creo or Onshape, but I've definitely seen how good and bad modeling can really change the outcome of the physical end product. The assembly we're looking at right now is a 2021 accumulator that I designed. It's got over 1,000 parts. It was designed in Creo and then exactly replicated in Onshape. Modeling this assembly showed me that it's really, really important that everyone adopts a robust modeling technique. Otherwise, assemblies can fall apart and the teams waste a ton of time having to remake things from scratch. So with that said, let's get started. The very first thing I'll go through is the Onshape cheat sheet that I've developed. This is meant to serve as a bit of a reference for things that are important to remember while modeling, some common keyboard shortcuts, where to find learning materials, that sort of stuff. This sheet barely scratches the surface of what you need to know, so please don't rely solely on this. That actually brings me to the first point of the cheat sheet, which is making sure that you've watched all of the mandatory tutorial videos by Onshape. There are a huge number of videos that they've provided, and it's well worth your time to jump down that rabbit hole. That being said, there are a few that are absolutely necessary before modeling any new team stuff in Onshape. I've listed them all here, as well as where to find them. So the learning pathways contain multiple courses, and the courses contain multiple bite-sized videos and learning exercises. I can't stress enough that you have to complete each of these items before watching this video series, and you have to watch this series before jumping into any new teams models. Another important note is that the university has its own enterprise within Onshape, so this doesn't mean a whole lot for you guys. It just means that you need to be careful to use newcastle.onshape.com and not cad.onshape.com. There are a bunch of other tips here about setting up your mouse to be the same as what everyone at the uni is used to, uploading non-CAD files into your Onshape documents, best practices to help out your FYP reports, my favorite shortcuts, a mate connected cheat sheet, some instructions on how to use our fastness system, some recommended features, as well as the full list of keyboard shortcuts provided by Onshape. So make sure you guys have a full read of this document, and we'll get on to the rest of the video. The rest of this video, and all the ones after it, are basically just tips and tricks that I've learned in Onshape that make the modeling process easier and more robust. In every video, I'll be assuming that you've seen every mandatory Onshape learning pathway and course. As such, I won't be going through the basics that are covered there unless there were things that I thought could be tricky to deal with as an ex-Creo user. I basically collated every interesting tip or fact that I learned while watching the Onshape videos or modeling the accumulator, and I put them into a Word document that was about 10,000 words long. I extracted the tips that I found to be most useful from those, and you're about to watch me spit them out in the order that they appear in my revised document. I know that a lot of them will have been covered to some extent in the learning pathways, but if I reiterated it here, it's because I could imagine people struggling with some aspect of it. So some tips are small to speed up your models, and others are absolutely crucial to making sure you're modeling using new team standard practices. So forgive that this series is basically a video dot point list, but let's talk about some general Onshape navigation kind of stuff. Nothing in this list is too paramount, but it can certainly make your life easier. Alright, so the first tip that I've got relates to Onshape's persistent selection. So that basically means that in Onshape, if you want to select multiple items, you actually don't have to hold the control key on your keyboard. You can just keep left clicking items and Onshape will add them to your selection. This doesn't just apply for items in the model space, it also applies to things in your instance list and your model tree and stuff. To deselect things, you can click them one at a time as you selected them as well, and that'll deselect them one at a time, obviously. Or you can press spacebar to deselect all, and similarly, you can also just click somewhere in the empty graphic space to deselect all. The other interesting thing about selections is that you can click and drag to do a box selection, which can be very helpful, especially when you're trying to select multiple things at once, obviously. You can see that if I click and drag from left to right, I get a blue box, and from right to left, I get a yellow. These basically just pertain to how the box works. So with the blue box, I have to select the entire object for it to be picked up there. So you can see if I just try and partially select it, it doesn't work. However, if I use the yellow box, if any part of the thing that you're trying to select is contained within the box, then it'll get picked up, as you can see there. The next tool is actually about using Onshape tools. So up in the toolbar here, you can see that if I hover over a tool, I can see the name and the shortcut. And if I continue hovering, it shows me a lot more information. So this is really helpful for things like these mate connectors here and seeing how they all work. The other thing up here, this question mark bar, if you want to view all of the keyboard shortcuts without going to the cheat sheet that I've made, you can hit this button here and it'll show all the useful ones there. Another thing for people that have come from Creo is that the middle click doesn't actually do a whole lot in Onshape. In Creo, it's typically used to kind of accept your changes or anything like that. In Onshape, usually you kind of just use a green check or something like that. However, you can double click the middle click button and it'll kind of reset the view to something nice for you. Something that you guys should definitely be doing as you model your assemblies is including any data sheets for components, off-the-shelf components that you use. So this can be really, really helpful for the next person that has to use your system. So I've just gone to the plus icon down here and I have a data sheets folder. I go import and you can see I've got some data sheets ready to go there. But yeah, so this is helpful for you and also for the next person that has to use your subassembly. So to create a section view in Onshape, all you have to do is go to the view cube drop down here and select section view. It'll prompt me to select one or more planes, so I can choose my datum planes or an actual defined plane. Alternatively, I can actually just select any flat surface that I'm interested in there. You can kind of grab these manipulators here and you can change the angle and the translation of your section as well across the different planes there. So I can grab the horizontal one there. Very nice. Also in Creo, we had something called the insert here bar, which is how you can kind of mass suppress a whole bunch of features at once. In Onshape, we have the same thing, but it's called the rollback bar instead. So that's a very useful tool for when you kind of want to have a muck around and experiment with different features without losing all of your existing progress. Another important feature of Onshape is the ability to share your document. So you can share it with individuals, you can share it with entire teams. So here I can put in new racing, new rocketry, any of those sort of teams. You can select all of these options here as well. So have a flick through those and make sure that you kind of set the permissions correct for whatever you're interested in. You can also share it to external people that aren't part of our enterprise using this link sharing thing here. So be warned, these links are specific to the tabs that you're currently in. So this would share the entire accumulated document with whoever I send the link to. But if I copy that and open it up in a new tab, you'll see that it takes me to the fan manifold tab. So that's probably fine, but if you're talking about a specific tab when you're sharing this with someone, make sure you share from that tab. In Onshape, you can use folders to organize your document. So you can see down here in my tab list, I've got it all really well organized with these folders here. Folders can be nested up to 4 levels deep, and they're a really good idea for managing large assemblies that have a lot of sub-assemblies. So you can see on the left here, these are all of my sub-assemblies for the accumulator, and you can see that the folders down the bottom here correspond. So it's a really good idea to make sure that your tabs are as clean and organized as possible. So you can see right here, I've got the top section folder. The very first thing in that folder is the top section assembly, and then following that are all of the other parts, studios, and assemblies that contribute towards that. Here is where I'd also put any of the 3D models from off-the-shelf components, like these connectors and that sort of thing in there. It really just helps to keep your tab list organized, which is super important for big assemblies. In the bottom left, you can also see the tab manager button there. So this is a way to kind of view all of your tabs in a much more organized way. You can filter by assemblies, part studios, different files that you've got, a lot of other options here for viewing it in different views and that sort of stuff. So once your assembly gets quite large, this can be a very handy tool. Onshape, like any other CAD environment, can start to get really bogged down in large assemblies. The way to prevent this in Onshape is the same as it is everywhere else. Make sure you hide what you don't need to see. You can hide entire assemblies at once with a little eye icon next to the assembly's name, just like that. And you can also hide multiple assemblies at once by selecting them and then right-click, hide. And if you think that particular configuration is one that you'll be coming back to a lot, as in like, hiding all of the interior components of the accumulator or something like that, you can save a display state. So I can just call this dummy display state. And that basically says that whatever is hidden and whatever is shown at the moment is saved. So I'll press enter, and then I can always return to this state. So I can show some other things, and if I want to quickly snap back to that, I can just open it up and select it from the drop down there. Excellent. So you can see I've got some ones here. I've got the complete assembly, I've got simplified and open, I've got exterior only, so that basically hides everything that's on the inside. So these are really useful and will definitely come in handy when it comes time to using the main assembly. So something that pretty much everyone will have to do is importing a 3D file from, say, like an external company or something like that. Just in essence, importing a step file or something similar from somewhere else. So the way to do this, you can import it straight from your documents page, which isn't great because it's going to clutter up what we've got in our EV3 CAD folder. Instead, it's better to actually go to the document that you want that part to live inside of. I might go into the connector box thing here. You can hit the little plus icon, go import. You can grab whatever 3D file you're after. So I can import that. I usually hit this option to go combine into a single part studio. This is important if you're importing from SolidWorks, and I usually hit this create composite part. You can kind of view the question mark to view a little bit more about that, but that effectively does the same thing as shrink wrapping in Creo. Kind of makes it more of a dumb solid rather than keeping all of the individual features and stuff with it. So once again, just make sure that when you import 3D models, you import them straight into the document that you want to use them in, rather than your list of documents in the document viewer. So something that's very useful about Onshape's collaboration is the fact that you can see who else is in the document with you. So you can see I've got this document opened up in another tab, and I can see that other session of myself there. And it'll actually show you what tab and folder they're in. If they're modifying a particular feature at the time, you'll be able to see that as well. But where this becomes really handy is when you're trying to sort of watch what they're doing and see how they do things. So I can actually double click on this name up here, and it'll basically watch their screen for me. So this is the original tab over here, and you can see on the right hand side that it's kind of mirroring exactly everything that happens over there. I can go into a sketch and start changing things there, and it'll show me on the other side of the screen. So if you want to know how kind of people operate in CAD, you can sort of just sneaky stalk them for a bit and watch kind of how they get things done. Onshape gives you the ability to leave comments within certain parts of the document. To view these, the comment button is just over here, and so you can write anything that you'd like here, and it'll show up for everyone else as well. You can also tag comments to certain faces or parts by right-clicking and going add comment. And you can say something along the lines of needs some color. You're also able to tag people, so I can put in my name here. I can also go assign to Lachlan Barrel, and then that adds it as a bit of a task for me to kind of fill out. I can go assign, and it gets attached to that face there. And you can see the little preview pop up there saying that there's something for me to do here. If you've created something in Onshape and you think it's a little bit too complicated for it to continue existing in the current document, or you think it would be better placed inside of another one, you can actually grab any one of these tabs down the bottom here and move it to another document. So I can go move to document, and you can see it gives me the option to create a new document or select an existing one from the enterprise. It'll show me what I'm trying to move, and it'll also show me all of these tabs are referenced by the one that I'm trying to move, so it'll move that as well. It's possible to intentionally select multiple tabs to move as well. So if I wanted all of the tabs within the segment folder to move, obviously I can just go move to document, and you can see it's pulled all of those with it. An important thing to note is that your document must have a version applied to it in order to be able to do this. If you don't know what versioning is, make sure you have a look at the learning pathways, and I'll also be doing a video about those soon. Alright guys, the final tip for the general Onshape navigation video is going to be about using the select other key. So in essence, Creo uses something very similar where you can basically just hover over something and then keep right clicking, and it will cycle through all of the things behind your current selection until you can grab the thing that you want. Onshape has something very similar. So for example, if I'm trying to grab one of these faces and I'm actually not able to see it from the exterior of the container, I can hover over where they would be, right click and go select other, and then you can see it basically shows me all of the other selections that I can make from within the container, judging by where my first right click was. You can also use the shortcut key for that, which is the key right next to the 1. So if I hit that key once again while I'm selecting over something else, it'll show me this entire list of things that I can grab there. Alright, that's all the tips for this video guys. I'll see you in the next video.